Today, we're breaking down a really powerful tool that tackles one of the biggest headaches in construction, getting your concrete mixed right every single time. We're taking a guided tour of the International Pro Mix Designer from Wisdom Waves Hub. I mean, making concrete, how hard can it be, right? You just grab some cement, sandstone, and water and mix it all up. But as you probably know, getting it just right is way more complex than you'd think. In reality, it's this incredibly complex balancing act. You're trying to juggle strength, workability, durability, even how the individual particles pack together. And if you push one of those levers a little too far, you risk compromising everything else. It's a classic engineering puzzle. So how does a tool like this solve that balancing act? Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover what this smart designer is, how the math actually works behind the scenes, where the standards come from, what your final recipe looks like, and then we'll finish with a quick jargon buster so you can speak the language fluently. All right, first up, let's get into what this tool actually is and why it's such a game changer for engineers and technicians out in the field. In a nutshell, think of it as your all-in-one platform. You just plug in your project's needs, your target strength and slump, and it does all the heavy lifting. It crunches the numbers for all the major international standards, it adjusts for messy real-world things like wet aggregates, and then it spits out a clean, print-ready batch sheet for the plant. Okay, now for the really cool part. How does it actually work? Let's pop the hood and look at the core logic. And don't worry, no crazy equations here, just a simple step-by-step breakdown in plain English. So the calculator follows this super logical 6-step sequence. It literally builds your mix design from the ground up, starting with strength and ending with those crucial real-world moisture corrections. Let's walk through them. First things first, the tool is smart. It doesn't just aim for the bare minimum strength you asked for. Nope. It sets a target that's a little bit higher by adding a statistical safety margin. This is absolutely crucial for dealing with the natural variability you always get in materials and testing on a real job site. Next, it kind of acts like a safety inspector. You tell it about your project's exposure conditions, like is it near the coast or in a place that freezes a lot, and it automatically enforces the rules from the standard. It'll lock in things like a maximum water-to-cement ratio to make sure that concrete is going to last for decades. So with those safety rules locked in, the calculator then figures out exactly how much water you need to get the workability or the slump that you're looking for. And from that number, it calculates the precise amount of cement required to hit both your strength and durability targets. It's all connected. And finally, we get to the aggregates. It calculates the precise volumes of sand and coarse aggregate needed to fill up exactly 1 cubic meter. Then, and this is the most critical step for real-world batching, it adjusts all the weights to account for the moisture that is actually in your stockpiles at the plant. So you might be wondering, where do all these rules come from? Well, the calculator isn't just making this stuff up. Its entire logic is grounded in major international standards. The question is, how does it know which rules to apply for your specific project? Well, this is what's so cool. It shows you the different philosophies behind the standards. Whether you're working with Indian, American, or European standards, the end goal is always durability. But each one gets there using a slightly different playbook with different parameters, and this calculator has all of those playbooks built right in. Okay, so after all that number crunching is done, what do you actually get? You get this beautiful, simple output sheet. This is your final recipe. So let's break down the crucial numbers you really need to be checking. Think of these as your dashboard. Right away, you can see the target strength you were designing for, your final water-cement ratio, and, this is the big one, the final batch weights that you're going to hand straight to the plant operator. And this right here, this illustrates one of the most important concepts. The calculator gives you both the theoretical SSD weights, which are used for the design on paper, and the practical as-received weights. Those are the ones adjusted for real moisture, and they're what you actually weigh out. Honestly, this is the exact spot where so many manual calculations go completely wrong. All right, to make sure you're totally confident using the tool and discussing your mix design, let's do a quick fire round and demystify some of the key terms you're going to see all the time. First up, the WC ratio, or water to cement ratio. Just think of this as the master control lever for your entire mix. You lower this number, and you generally get stronger, more durable concrete. It is, without a doubt, the single most important number to keep your eye on. We mentioned this one earlier, SSD, which stands for saturated surface dry. All this means is that it's a standardized, neutral moisture state for our aggregates. It's our scientific baseline, our starting point, that lets us do all our calculations consistently before we adjust for what's happening in the real world. NMA, it sounds complicated. It's not. It's just the nominal maximum aggregate size. In plain English, it's the size of your biggest rocks. And it matters because bigger rocks generally mean you need less water and sand to make a workable mix, and that changes the whole recipe. And finally, free moisture. Just picture your sand and stone pile after it rains. You see that extra water just clinging to the surface of everything? That's free moisture. The calculator knows that water is going to end up in your mix, so it tells you to subtract that exact amount from the fresh water you add at the plant. Super important. And really, that's the core of it. By understanding these key steps and these terms, you're not just plugging numbers into a black box anymore. You can now confidently create and, just as importantly, defend a professional concrete mix design. So now your professional mix report is literally one click away. You should definitely check out the link in the description to try the International Pro Mix Designer for yourself on the Wisdom Waves Hub. Go play around with it. The only real question left is, what will you design first?